What's up, everybody? Welcome to Snail Mail Friday episode, segment of the podcast where this is your time to shine, everybody out there. We got lots of voicemails come in to talk about all sorts of fun stuff. So it can be anything from feedback on the podcast, some topics that we cover on the podcast that maybe you can give a little bit more insight to, which is always fun to hear about different ideas and different stuff that people come up with. I think that's one of the cool things about running a podcast is that, you know, Jimmy and I are really fart smellers, but we don't always know. We know 99% of everything, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah,
Sure.
No, but we have really smart listeners that oftentimes you guys know a lot more than we do about different topics. And so one of the cool things about the podcast is that we get to crowdsource ideas.
Absolutely.
And crowdsource information out there for other people that are looking for different ways to do stuff. So pretty cool. I think it's a really cool feature that has kind of come out of Snail Mail.
Yeah. I think it's a fun segment, you know,
yeah.
It's we get to listen to you guys, hear your guys' voices, like sort of connect some of the dots together if we chat with you on Instagram. And then you, in your expertise, gets to give feedback through the podcast to somebody else, probably across the country that you would never have spoken to before. And you can help them out one way or another. You know, there's a lot of ways to do that in this world these days. And I'm glad we are one of those options.
Yeah. So with that being said, I think we ended last Snail Mail with Tom from Clinking Beards Strong.
Yeah.
And he had some pretty cool ideas about the Dana 44 Ford 9-inch.
Yeah. He talked quite a bit about budget builds.
Budget axles on specifically those axles. And, you know, how do you make a Toyota 6-lug pattern on a Ford axle and some other fun things. So Tom actually called back and left a second voicemail.
Okay.
So let's listen to that one, see what Tom's got to say here. And then hopefully we didn't mess up too much by separating his voicemails between the episodes.
We'll see what we got ourselves into.
Yeah. All right. Here's Tom with Clinking Beards Strong.
It's Tom with Clinking Beards Strong again. I'm just calling back because I was thinking about the last voicemail I left, and I feel like the second the voicemail beep happened, I went completely blank in the brain. And so I wanted to call back and kind of clarify some of my thoughts that I had on that one. But basically what I was getting at is I think I was trying to say that I feel like the 44 9-inch combo bang for the buck is kind of the best route you can go most of the time. I know some people will argue 60s are way better just because you can do more with them. But if you're patient and you wait for a good deal to come along, then you kind of can't beat a 44, in my opinion. Like I had said, I have a second gen S10, and it's on 40s. It's 3-linked in the front with 63s out back. And I have a spool in the rear with 513s and a Grizzly Yukon up front with 513s. I run Rubicon Express TJ springs up front with just some standard shocks. And the whole truck, including the price of buying the truck, I don't think I hardly have $9,000 in, even with the 40-inch tires and all that stuff. So I could buy a lot of 44 axle shafts and ring and pinion sets for the cost of spending, you know, $1,000 to $1,500 on the Dana 60, and then spending another, you know, $700, $800, $900 on lockers and gears, and then you're still going to end up putting chromo shafts or RCVs or any of that stuff into a Dana 60 anyway. I think the biggest thing with running a 44 is you just have to drive it like you have a 44. And I'd mentioned in the last voicemail that I've never broken a shaft on this 44, and that's the case. And the way I do that is by running really good quality U-joints in them. I inspect them frequently, replace them the second they start to get some slop. And that has, that comboed with knowing that I'm, wheeling with a 44 has kept that front axle together. I actually twisted the whole truss off of it before I broke an axle shaft on it. So I think people don't really give them enough credit. And if you just drive accordingly, then you'll be just fine. But either way, just wanted to kind of clarify my thoughts on that one. So hopefully that did make it more.
Oh, cut off.
Got cut off. Well, that's great, Tom. No, it definitely does clear some things up.
Yep.
The episodes are separated. So if you want to hear his first episode, go back to the previous SnailMail episode. But I think he covered a lot of what he kind of spoke about in that first episode. So you don't really need to go backwards. But I do like that, you feel that and I do somewhat agree that the 44 is a great platform. I do think, though, that it's still a little small for 40s, right? I mean,
depends. In my opinion, it really comes down to the weight of your vehicle.
Yeah.
Like, I think 44s under Bobcat, awesome. I think 44s under Kermit, maybe not so awesome.
Maybe not so awesome.
On 40-inch tires, right?
Sure.
I know some people that run the Rubicon 44s under their 4-door JKs.
Right.
And don't really break axle shafts. They have other issues.
Right.
But I mean, definitely there's an argument to be made about Dana 44 axles. And maybe I really think that we should make this Monday's topic.
Okay.
What are the benefits and drawbacks to different sized axles, and when do you know that you should run bigger versus when you can get away with running smaller axles?
Sure. I'm down for that.
More axle talk podcast.
More axle talk.
Yeah, buddy. No, but I agree. I think you can get away a lot with 44 axles, Dana 44s. As long as you beef them up in the right, it's like a Toyota axle, right?
Absolutely.
As long as you beef up the Toyota axle in the right places, Toyota axles are just as strong as 44s, if not stronger, in my opinion.
Okay.
Just depends on what parts you're talking about, right?
Sure.
And done correctly. So, I think this could be a really deep dive topic. And I really want to do it for Monday's episode now.
Okay. Yeah. We might cover that on Monday's episode.
Yeah.
I do think that the 44 and mini truck axles, right, they're strong axles, but like he said, it all comes down to how you drive them, how heavy of a foot you are.
Yep.
Yeah, you can pull it off, but I mean, at what level are you pulling it off? Are you not hitting a hard line because you don't want to possibly break your truck? And so you're always taking bypasses?
Yeah.
Or is that your style that you don't care about how you're wheeling? You just want to get to the campsite.
Yeah. I agreed. That was ultimately my decision for beefing up Kermit and going down the big rabbit hole of doing these stupid axles and suspension under Kermit, was because I was starting to do bigger stuff. And I wanted to do bigger stuff than just take all the bypasses and go to your end location. Right?
Sure.
So yeah, I think this is gonna be a fun topic. The big thing I will say on his main argument is that the Dana 44, you can't really beat in terms of price. And then he quoted $1,500 for a Dana 60 axles. I think those prices have come way, way down. They're not $1,500 anymore. No. And I've gotten a lot of evidence from listeners saying you can pick up a set of Super Duty axles for under $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. The prices have come down quite a ways these days, which is kind of ridiculous.
It is kind of ridiculous as to how far down they are right now.
Yeah. And I think that goes right in line with his first voicemail that he left, when he said something along the lines of, you can build a vehicle as cheap as you possibly can build it, as long as you want to wait for
deals,
a good deal
deals,
on like Facebook Marketplace or anywhere. Somebody's going to sell something cheap. Yeah. And if you're willing to wait for it, then you can do a budget build on the cheap for sure, with getting some decent size axles or getting some big parts.
Yep. Yep. I agree. So I think it's going to be a fun topic. Tom, when you listen to this on Friday, be prepared. We're going to deep dive into it on Monday as well.
There you go.
Axle Talk podcast on Monday, everybody. All right. So let's see. Next up looks like Brian from the Bay.
Brian from the Bay.
It looks like we have more Axle Talk podcasts.
Perfect.
People love axles.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy and Tyler, this is Brian from the Bay. I was listening to your episode about the budget crawler. And one thing you guys didn't really talk about is kind of leveraging your time to get more for what it's worth, right? So I picked up a pair of 2012 Super Duty axles from this guy for $2,000. So I thought it was a pretty good deal. When I get there to get them, they had wheels and tires on there. They had like everything from the lift still on there. I mean, he basically just dropped it out of this rig and was like, here you go. So it was like filling up my trailer. But after selling off all those parts, I'm into the axles for $1,200, and it comes with like the factory E-locker in the rear, and it has like a limited slip in front. So if you could find something like that, or go on Copart and buy a wrecked truck and pull out what you need and sell off the rest, you could come out ahead pretty easily. Anyways, keep crawling, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, totally. This is that concept of, what is that TV? I forget, the Wrecked Garage.
Okay.
Where they start with a clunker beater mobile, do some minor improvements to it, trade it out for another project vehicle that they can do some more projects to, trade it out for another project vehicle, get some improvements to, trade it out. And they're essentially always trading up, right?
Yeah.
Trading up and taking the parts off of other vehicles and reselling them on the market to see if they can come out ahead of what they purchased in the first place.
Sure.
And it's a really fun concept. I think that a lot of people in the off-road industry and the vehicle industry in general like doing this. I know that one of my employees loves doing this.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I'm just like, man, it's not worth my time to put into that.
There's a time and effort there for sure.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it's like, if you have the time, that it could be very profitable.
Absolutely.
Or very cheap, however way you want to do it, right? Kind of just referencing Tom, like we were just talking about. And, I was just thinking the other day, it's not going to happen. I'm going to say it. This isn't going to happen.
It's okay.
But if I were to sell Bobcat, how much could I get for it? What would you think a fair price for Bobcat would be?
Nowadays price, I think 7,000 to 9,000.
Yeah. I had in my mind roughly about 8. Yeah. So that's the perfect ballpark. If I parted Bobcat out.
Yeah. Right.
I could easily get more than 8.
I think you can get 12 to 13 if you parted out Bobcat.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. And if I wanted to deep dive in the part out for like, I have a clock, I have, working thermostat, I have a, maybe not thermostat, but a heater core. Yeah. Or my dash isn't cracked, or I have all the glass, or whatever, for, sell the doors or something, well, the doors are a bit dented, but maybe somebody wants them.
Get it for half doors.
Yeah, there you go. Good for half doors. Yeah. Exactly. I think you can make money by parting things out. Like if you know how much something is priced, and that it could be a fair price online somewhere, and you have the time to take something apart, there's a good opportunity for you to make some money. Yeah. I've often thought about, like, I look at a crawler online and somebody's like, it's a parts, or it's like mechanic special. Something's wrong with it. I'm selling it for 200 or like $2,000. Let's just say. Yeah. I'm like, I could buy that and sell the parts and make more than $2,000.
Fucking Ultra 4 Jones, when he sold his old buggy, he stripped it all down.
Right. Yeah.
He stripped it all down and sold the chassis, the axles, like everything separate from each other, but like in one package. Like he was willing to sell it as a package, but it was all stripped down. Or separate of each other. And he sold the entire package for like $5,000.
Oh yeah.
Like that package altogether was probably close to $10,000 to $15,000 worth of stuff. Of parts.
Yes.
And I'm like, you find stuff like that and then part it out, you can come way ahead on stuff.
Absolutely. Because there's people like me sometimes where I sold a pair of axle housings. Right. And it was the Toyota mini truck axle housings from like 1984. Yeah. Right. So it did not have a desirable rear axle. So I was selling it. I think I was selling it for like $500 for the pair. Or if you just want the front axle, it's $600.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I'm just, take the rear from me. They're probably not going to want it. They'll sell it for $50. They're still going to make a little bit of money. Yeah. They make some of their money back. But for me, it's worth it to get rid of that axle. Yeah. So you'll find people like that too.
Yep. Yeah, it's always fun to see what people's different priorities are out there that are buying and selling stuff.
Yeah.
And if you can match those priorities up with, somebody who's just trying to get rid of crap so that they have space, because the space in their shop is more valuable than the stuff they're getting rid of.
Yeah.
Which is usually my case. Whenever I sell stuff, I feel like I give people pretty good deals on it.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I'm just like, I need this gone. I need it out of here. And people who are buying and are looking for that same priority match, it's awesome.
For sure.
So,
and then you can find the people that are willing to trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a whole nother argument or discussion there where it's like, hey, are you willing to accept this item and a case of beer?
Yeah.
And it's funny how that case of beer will throw people over.
That's usually my go-to. Is like, people are like, yeah, how much do you want for that? I'm like, I don't really care. Give me a case of Simply Lemonades. Like,
yeah,
I think right now I have like 5 cases at home of Simply Lemonades.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
So, it's just funny what one man's trash is another man's treasure
100%.
kind of thing concept. So, fun. All right. So next one. I feel like we went over this one. Oh, we did. This one was Rob with the high desert truck, top truck when we moved forward, bounced forward on his.
Yeah, that was funny. I was listening to Wheeling Wine and Whiskey's episode this week, and they played Rob's voicemail.
Oh, really?
And they're like, ooh, sorry, Rob. We're a little late.
A little late. That's funny. All right. Brian called back from the Bay.
Oh, all right.
So I guess he called back a couple days later. Let's see what Brian.
Okay.
Ooh, battery talk. I'm excited.
What's up, guys? It's Brian from the Bay again. I just left a message for you the other day, but I'm listening to the podcast about testing a battery and the bad battery that you had. What they told us in school is if you had your multimeter across the post and you hit the starter, because that puts a load on the battery while you're reading the voltage, it's not supposed to drop below 9 volts. If it drops down to 9 volts or below, that means your battery's bad. So that's always the metric I've used. It kind of served me pretty well. But yeah, figured I'd share it. Keep growing.
Yeah, that's a great another way to test it for sure.
Fantastic way.
Yeah.
I actually had a lot of feedback in regards to the battery.
Oh, yeah?
So a few people wrote in and said, yeah, you're an idiot. You should have just told them so. But that could be very much true. But really, a lot of it came down to the fact that we were just trying to get a free battery.
Yeah.
Because the battery would have been still under a warranty. And if we wanted them to honor the warranty, we kind of had to go through these hula hoops.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that was the route that we went. But
yeah.
I kind of wish we would have just said, here, test the battery. It's easier to get to, easier to pull out. Just test the battery first.
Yeah.
And maybe that would have solved the problems. I did have somebody else write back and tell me that I should have pulled the alternator back out and returned it.
Yeah.
But I'm 95% sure that you can't return an item that has been installed or used. So
how would they tell if it's been installed or used?
If it's dirty, I don't know.
Because you removed the zip tie from it. That's how they would tell. Yeah.
Maybe that's also another way. But yeah, from the inside. God, that was so weird. I'm glad I tested that first.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, I mean, and also on the flip side, the car has like 130,000 miles on it, and it was the original alternator. So we're kind of like, well, probably is about time for the alternator to be replaced anyway.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Well, cool. I love that. That's another, I didn't think of doing that way, but that would also very much tell you if you have a dead cell in the battery. If it's not giving the voltage and amperage that the alternator needs during cranking, then it won't start. So
yeah. 100%. And I knew there was a trick there. I just didn't know what it was. So thanks, Brian, for calling in. You seem like a well-educated mechanic for sure.
Edumacated. All right.
Smart. SMRT.
Yep. All right. Next one up is our Gladiator on 29s, buddy. Woo. Mr. Nick DeLuca.
I thought he was on 28s.
Oh, that's right. We did downgrade him.
Yeah.
So Nick, you're now on 28s. We will not play your voicemails unless you say you're on 28s now. But we'll give you a pass for this voicemail. So
all right.
Here's Nick.
Hey, Jimmy, Tyler. It's Nick, Gladiator on 29, Spademan 925.
28.
Tyler, it's good to see you at Sierra Trek. I'm listening to podcast episode 529, and it sounds like Jimmy skipped another weekend off-road to work on his truck. And Jimmy, you didn't work on your truck. So what I got to tell you, Jimmy, my advice is stop skipping trips and just dedicate 1 hour a day to your truck. Put it on the calendar with your wife and say, every day, after work, after dinner, whatever, I need 1 hour to work on my truck. And then every day, just go spend an hour working on your truck. Now, it's not as efficient as, spending long periods of time on your truck, but sometimes that's all you get. This is generally how I work on vehicles, is I'll tell my wife, tomorrow after work, after dinner, I need to go spend an hour working on the truck. And that's actually how I built the Land Cruiser during COVID. I just dedicated like 1 hour a day to working on the Land Cruiser and just getting as far as I could and then stopping. And actually you get a lot of time in between to think about problem solutions, better ways to do things. So I think you get a better result at the end anyway. The other thing is, Jimmy, when you're wondering if your battery's bad or your alternator, yeah, you just need a voltmeter. And so just check the battery without the car on. And if it's, 12 volts, and then turn the car on and check the battery with the voltmeter. If it's, 13 and a half, 14 volts, your alternator's good because the power spikes. So the alternator's working and it's not a battery issue. So just the easy way to test. Hope you guys are having a good week, and hopefully I see you on the next trip.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I don't know if I just blanked on the alternator info at that moment. It was just, I think I was just in the mind of in regards to, well, yeah. I don't know if I blanked in regards to the battery. I think I was just mindset on the alternator and focusing on that.
You're hyper focused on alternator stuff
and not thinking about the battery as much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's true. And I appreciate the feedback on an hour a day trick. If you listen to Thursday's episode, you'll hear that we actually asked for feedback, and now you're delivering way ahead of schedule.
He's the next day, man. He's quick. He's on it.
That's awesome. And we're like 2 weeks behind.
August 19th is when he called in.
Yeah. Oh, you're doing great, Nick.
Good job.
Your foresight is amazing. But that's not a bad idea. I would like longer periods of time, to be more productive. But if I can't gather a 3-hour chunk of time, then I guess an hour chunk is all I can get. Then that's all I should accept.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good thing. And I was just going to mention that. I was like, hey, we just asked for that feedback. Man, Nick is a great person to try and give us that feedback on how he's been able to do it. So
you get a pass, Mr. Gladiator, on 28. So you don't need to call in regards to Thursday's episode. So you probably listened to Thursdays, then called in, and now listening to Fridays and realized you didn't have to call in.
Yeah, right. All right. Should we do one more?
Yeah, let's do one more.
All right. This is Ken from Wyoming.
Whoa, Wyoming.
Yeah.
It's like, we've had somebody from Wyoming call in before. I wonder if it's Ken.
I don't know, because I don't honestly think anybody lives in Wyoming.
It is the lowest populated state in the Union.
Mm-hmm. So I think he was actually just traveling through Wyoming, and he was like, hey, I'm in Wyoming right now.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
All right, Ken from passing through Wyoming.
Here we go.
Hey, it's Ken from Wyoming again, also known as Wywander on the social media places. But I was just listening to you guys talk about the reasons, the Blue Ribbon Coalition is doing their thing and the reasons why things shouldn't be closed. And I drive up to the grocery store, and I saw parked in the handicapped spot this monster of a rig as an excursion, lifted. I had probably 38s or 40s on it, racks everywhere and guards, and I had a generator on the front and all that stuff. And there's a dog in the back seat, and the driver, walks around from the back side holding a cane. All this stuff closing is totally affecting that guy and his ability to go do things. And it's pretty frustrating. I appreciate you guys' work and getting the word out. Thank you.
Yeah, 1000%, man. That's a big movement that Blue Ribbon is focusing on right now, is the ADA compliance, quote unquote, issue of closing access to public lands.
Right. Yeah.
And that by closing access to these amazing areas that we have available to us for recreation, we are 1000% being biased against ADA people.
Right. Yes.
And there's I don't know what this guy's case was, why he was on a cane, but I mean, we have, there was an awesome video that Rich Klein, Little Rich from Trail Hero did as to why he started Trail Hero in the first place. And that reasoning, that why, is exactly one of the main reasons why shutting down access is not okay to these amazing recreational areas.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, it's a bummer that it's happening, and thank you for calling in and reminding everybody and Tyler and I about continuing to push for, keeping our trails open and for people like that.
Yep.
I thought you were going to go on a rant about a big
off-roader parking
in a handicap zone.
Yep.
Which I always find interesting in my mind. I don't want to get myself into too much trouble. But I always go like, why does this huge lifted truck have a handicap placard?
Yeah.
There's many reasons. I'll just say there's many reasons to get a handicap placard. But does somebody that really needs help getting from their vehicle to a store or a building of some sort, right? If they need help there, how are they able to get in their own rig? But I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot.
That's definitely my gut reaction too. I 100%, I see a big ass vehicle on 38s or 40s with a handicap placard, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like even myself, and you and I are both deeply ingrained in the off-road industry here. And then we run into paraplegics on the Rubicon that are driving
100%.
using 100% of their hands. They're not using their feet at all.
Yep.
And it's like, oh yeah, there's people like this that are definitely handicapped, and who's to say that they shouldn't be able to have a big lifted off-road vehicle too. And
absolutely.
so I don't know. It's one of those things that I think it's a little bit of the privileged side of us that says that, and we automatically jump to these judgmental conclusions.
Yeah. I want the handicap placard.
I know, right? It's real. That's really what it is. It's come down to jealousy of, man, I want to park my 350 in the fucking handicap spot. Come on.
Right at the front.
Yeah,
for sure. Ken, anyways. It was Ken, right?
Yes, Ken from Wyoming. Why wander?
Why wander? I had some Wyoming whiskey the other day, and it was fantastic. I don't know if you're a whiskey lover, but if you enjoy a little glass of whiskey, check out the Wyoming whiskey.
Is that literally what it's called? Wyoming whiskey?
Yeah, it's called Wyoming whiskey. Okay. And it's like a 3-4 pointed W. Like they put the W's together and made a bunch of W's, the squiggly lines. Yeah. But Wyoming whiskey, I had the single barrel the other day, and it was very, very top notch.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool. So yeah, thanks Ken for calling in again. Hopefully your trip through Wyoming was fantastic and didn't have any issues. I cracked myself up.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's it for today for Snail Mail, everybody. Thank you so much for calling in. Some great topics. So we love hearing from you guys. If you have any feedback for the show, you want to give us some tips and tricks on any of the topics that we cover, any topics we don't cover, maybe you just have a random topic that you want covered, call in. We love hearing from you guys. This is one of our favorite segments for sure. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can do that at 916-345-4744, or that phone number is down in the description for you guys, so you can grab it at any time.
Sweet. I like it. And with that, keep crawling. Peace. We out.
See ya.
The number you have called has been disconnected.